Today we're going to be discussing about our company and sOOPy. First thing I want to discuss are classes. Classes are an overall template that can create objects through its main structure using different input values to create multiple different objects. This is in direct reference to portions of our scripts that can be written in multiple different languages. This helps us continually put data through these classes and create new objects through the classes without having to rewrite program and scripts for each portion. Encapsulation is what keeps the classes, their data, and their functionality separate from the complete program. This is what's really important about classes and what allows us to reuse scripts from top to bottom without having to rewrite the programs. Then we can just create values to input into these classes by using encapsulation to prevent it from interfering with other portions of our scripts. Inheritance is basically taking properties from another object or a class and using that, probably in another class, in another function, to get a separate value, but it's taking some of the properties that are being used before it. For instance, if you wanted to use moving decimal points or something of that nature, you can use those properties from a pre-existing class and use that in the next one, and that's using inheritance, as it is built off of parent classes. Modularity is adding structure to a program and separating it into portions so they do not rely upon each other. Modularity would be like taking maybe our mailing department and our sales department and keeping them separate. So if the sales department was to go out, we can still mail out the things that we need to mail out. But if the mailing department went out, our sales team can still make sales and continue to produce what they need to produce. Process isolation is keeping a process running by itself. So very similar to modulation, but we're discussing specifically on the computers now. So this is going to be for like our IT department. The process isolation is making sure that each process that is running is not going to have interference with another process, so that if a singular process was to fail, like a file server process fails, it's not going to affect the rest of the computer. Now, obviously, in that example, that is not reliable. You cannot run the computer without the file process, but that it would be an example. Domain separation is going to be keeping each user on the domain separate from other domains and users. So if a user belongs to domain A, we are not going to also put them into domain B, because that's going to become a security risk for our entire environment. So for our IT people, this means that you need to decide and determine and section out on your network who needs to belong to what domain in order to have the most security and effectiveness for each portion of the company. Open design is going to mean that when we build these scripts to be used, these processes, these programs by our end users, they need to be able to be manipulated at a later date. So if we put this out to our end users and it is something that can make improvements and can be worked upon to be a better product for our end users, we have to be able to go back in there and make those edits without it collapsing the entire program. Defense layering means that we're going to approach our network as a whole from top to bottom, from maybe public network access to private network access, and we need to add separate layers of security so that if one layer of security is breached, there is another layer of security in place to stop that advancement. This can be using different firewalls on different networking devices, so routers, layer 3 switches, firewalls on the end user's device. This can be different malware scans and antivirus scanners at different layers upon our network, and it's just putting these in different places so that if there is advancement by unethical hacking, then we will catch it at different spots.